Welcome to Aging Disgracefully, a weekly oddcast of seriously funny and sometimes raunchy monologues. I'm Carolyn Meyer, and I've got a story for you. Here's episode number 16, Meet the Cougars. I've been called a cougar, so I might as well be honest about it. I am attracted to younger men, and younger men seem to be attracted to me. Did you know that the cougar is the second largest cat in North America? Female cougar can weigh up to 140 pounds. I weigh 25 pounds less, FYI. A cougar can hit speeds up to 50 miles an hour, but it cannot roar. It purrs, and that purring makes you think it's a really nice cat. But don't let that deceive you. A cougar is a predator. And so when you call a woman a cougar, you're not paying her a compliment. She's a sexual predator, a pussy you need to watch out for. There's no equivalently snarky term for a man. Men applaud a guy who's with eye candy, 30 years younger. Donald and Melania, if you remember those two. And if other men pretend to be amused at the age difference, the truth is they're probably envious that the old guy can actually pull it off. On the other hand, a lot of people simply cannot tolerate the idea of a woman hanging out with a dude who may be a decade or more than a decade younger. So yeah, I've been called a cougar. I've also been called a MILF. Mommy, I'd love to fuck. But most MILFs are half my age. I'm more of a GILF, granny, I'd love to fuck. Or maybe just an owl, an old white lady. Fortunately, there are men out there who are into grannies and owls. I can tell you, though, it can be tough on a son to find out that his mother is having sex. But it's even tougher on him when mom is having sex with a man who is her son's age or even younger. What I have not experienced yet is how I'd feel if one of my sons began dating a woman my age. The French have a different view, of course. The president of that enlightened country, Emmanuel Macron, is 24 years younger than his wife, Brigitte. You might say Madame Macron is an overachieving cougar. I say, vive la France. But my model is not a French woman. It's a Spanish woman, the Duchess of Alba. You have to love her story. Doña Maria del Rosario Cayetana Fitzjames Stewart y de Silva, born in 1926, was all about superlatives. Not only did she have a string of names, she had a string of major titles, 14 of them, and a bunch of minor titles, too. More than any other woman in the world. Cayetana was the richest woman in Europe with a fortune of around 7 billion. That's billion with a B. It's said that you could walk across Spain from north to south without leaving her property. She was a great beauty. There are photographs to prove that, as well as being an accomplished flamenco dancer and an expert horsewoman. The Duchess was definitely a catch. At 21, Cayetana was married to a man 7 years older than her. In a wedding that cost about $10 million, she produced 6 children, and at age 46, she became a widow. But she was still a beauty and would undoubtedly qualify as a MILF, and a rich one. 4 years later, she remarried, this time to a former Jesuit priest who had been her confessor. The priest, former priest, his name was Jesus, was 8 years younger than his bride. We can assume it was a reasonably happy marriage. Then, when Cayetana was 75, Jesus died, and one could reasonably assume that she would slip quietly into dignified old age. One would be dead wrong. And this is where I connect with the Duchess. 10 years later, at the age of 85, the age I am now, Cayetana fell in love one more time. This time the object of her amour was a man who was neither a nobleman nor a priest, just a nice guy named Alfonso. Alfonso had a government job in the Spanish equivalent of the Social Security Administration. We don't know how they met. Maybe Cayetana came by to pick up her Social Security check. I don't know. Oh, one other thing. Alfonso was 61. He's 24 years younger than his intended bride. Cayetana may have had dozens of noble titles, but now Cougar was one of them. And at this point, she was also a great-grand MILF. If the ages had been reversed and Alfonso was 24 years older than his bride, there might have been a few raised eyebrows among the Spanish aristocracy. He was not of her social class. If Alfonso had simply agreed to be her escort for official occasions once in a while, there would have been condescending smiles. But she wanted to marry him. Predictably, everybody went nuts. The Duchess had a historic responsibility. Her 6 children did their damnedest to talk her out of it. "They don't want me to marry," said the Duchess, "but they change partners oftener than I do." Alfonso renounced any claim to her vast fortune. "Alfonso doesn't want anything," she said. "All he wants is me." She drew up a prenup, gave each of the kids $1 billion or so, plus a palace or 2 to shut them up, and enough Goyas and Picassos and Rembrandts to stock a museum. And in 2011, 10 years ago, Cayetana and Alfonso were married. There are photographs of the happy bride and her handsome groom. In her youth, the Duchess of Alba was indeed a stunning beauty. But as she aged, her beauty began to fade, as it inevitably does, and she fought it off in every way she could. She had work, so that by the time she was in her 80s, the Duchess had begun to look not old exactly, but really, really weird. Botox, facelifts, nose job, fat injections. She denied it, of course. But truth be told, by then the Duchess was no longer a beauty. There comes a time when the work no longer works, and it's too late then to go back. The process cannot be reversed. 3 years after that third marriage, Cayetana, the Duchess of Alba, died in 2014 at the age of 88. And in some basic ways, I consider myself her spiritual successor. I have declared myself the Duchess of Albuquerque. All I need are a few $1 billion, coat of arms, several palaces, maybe some flamenco lessons, and a good-looking guy about 25 years younger than I am. I'll skip the facelift, the Botox, thanks. And I'll probably be no happier than I am right now. But there's one thing the Duchess and I do have in common. Doña Maria del Rosario Cayetana Fitzjames Stewart de Silva played by the rules when she was very young. But eventually she did as she damn well pleased. And so do I. You can read this and other stories on my blog at funnycarolyn.com, but do join me next week for episode number 17, In the Driver's Seat. And be sure to subscribe. I'm Carolyn Meyer, and I'm aging disgracefully.